The following is a Spirit Street production. You've discovered your link to the Powercat Podcast, presented by Fridge Wholesale Liquor. It's the Powercat Podcast. And now, let's go to the Spirit Street Studios. Here's your host, Go Powercat publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to another edition of the Powercat Podcast from our brand new podcasting studio. Oh, it's been so long. We've been working on this forever. I hope you saw the photo that we posted on Twitter and then linked that to the message boards. It's really cool. It's really cool, and it's a dead room, so to speak. There's no sound that travels around. It's padded walls, so when I'm having a bad day, the guys will just lock me in here. Padded walls.
So a lot of the times Fitz is going to be in here to take a nap, is what he's saying.
Yeah, it also insulates outside noise, which is good because we're on kind of a busy street. Tim Fitzgerald, that was Riley Gates. Zach Carlson standing by to do Zach Carlson things. Whatever that is.
What is that?
I have no idea. But yeah, we're in our new studios. It's the WTC Gig-Powered Studios, and we are very happy to bring you the podcast from here. And by the way, if you're a local podcaster and you need a place to do your thing, preferably about sports, I got to admit it, hit us up and let us know. You can tweet at us at gopowercat.com. And we currently have the running company, Manhattan Running Company, in here doing their thing. In fact, they will follow us. And eventually we will be feeding a bunch of different sports podcasts, hopefully to CBS Sports, which is expanding their podcast realm. Much more on that later on down the road, but that's part of the reason why we invested so much in the studio space is there's big things coming in. We're really close on the video studio. We kind of needed to get the second studio finished to get the first studio finished, if that makes sense, because we had to get stuff out of there to get it in here and then free it up, and now we got to set lighting and all that. Zach, are you excited to have lights?
I'm so happy.
It's going to be really nice. We do need to get a picture up from that studio because it's pretty cool.
I can't wait to post the before and the after, because I still have that picture.
Well, you're going to have to shoot a new after, probably, because now we got the podcast.
Oh, yeah, you make a good point.
Maybe shoot it from, the before is from one side. The better after would be from the other side, so it picks up the...
Well, I want to do it from this exact same angle. That's what I want to do.
I actually do both, and then we can.
Okay.
Then we can show the.
Maybe I'll just tweet one out on my personal, and then tweet them all out on the company.
Because there's a wall that you cannot see from his angle that has a giant monitor on it, where we'll be able to do stand-ups with video. So we're really excited about everything going on here. Not as excited as I was to see that the Fridge Wholesale Liquor is hiring.
Oh?
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Summer job for Riley.
Yeah, I'm telling you what, folks, if you're a student or just a person around town, want a little part-time job, hop into the Fridge. They are hiring. I don't know what the benefits plan is. I don't know if they have health care. I don't know any of that.
I know what they've got.
But I like what they got around the environment there.
Die Hard on VHS.
You know, like Die Hard on VHS. They have had 4 or 5 people ask about that. They have no clue what
I
the
can't
joke
believe
is.
we actually got people to ask about it.
So if you're in the Fridge, ask for Die Hard on VHS and see if they have it. I'm pretty sure Kevin still has it in the back office somewhere stored away. Because if you bought out an old Blockbuster, why wouldn't you keep Die Hard, the greatest Christmas movie ever, on VHS?
We get on eBay right now to see if I can find one. If they don't have one.
Fantastic. It's great that the part-time help. And that's a good reason, if you're listening to this podcast, to apply for work there, because you can be part-time help that actually gets the joke, because you'll know the joke. But we are sponsored by the Fridge, WTC, Amigo Telephone Company, which is now roared into Manhattan with incredible fiber services, is our studio sponsor. And here's the third sponsor. I know you're getting overloaded. Tanner's Bar and Grill sponsors our first segment of the podcast. Get into Tanner's. Right now, I kind of wish I was at Tanner's. The Royals are playing. There's nothing like a day game in a sports bar.
I agree, but why do I want to spend, because let's be real, I'm going to have a few beers and I'm going to have a meal and everything like that. Why do I want to spend probably like $30, $40 watching the Royals lose? At least Tanners would make it fun.
They don't lose all the time, just 80% of the time.
Okay,
so maybe it'll be the day that they win, and you'll have a very enjoyable day. Plus, they're playing the White Sox, and they suck.
I'll put it this way: if I was gonna watch the Royals lose, I would do it at Tanner's.
It's a good place to watch any sports, win or lose. Get into Tanner's Bar and Grill, do your thing there, and say hi to Jeremy and Charlie and everyone that runs that fantastic joint. We are the Powercat Podcast. We are part of the 24/7 Sports Network as GoPowercat.com, and here are your questions from Wabash Station.
From Purple Poncho Via, how many other Big 12 schools don't have a spring game? And what is the main reason for a spring game? He thinks it was interesting that Iowa State doesn't have one, which makes sense as probably half the stadium in the fall is stuck riding a tractor in mid-April.
Plus,
I didn't know Iowa State didn't have one.
I don't know. TCU canceled there because of injuries.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see more and more schools move away from it. The purpose was, back in the day, it was a big event before TV, before internet, all the other distractions out there. Having a spring game kept people involved in your program, and so it became kind of whenever it's been a big tradition to have a spring game, like Nebraska or Alabama, more traditional football schools, people still show up, but everyone else is, come on, man, we got other things to do than watch a practice.
Well, that's where I'm at on some of them, but also then you look at a school like Oklahoma who moves their spring game to Friday night to avoid weather, and you're thinking like, okay, it's already a spring game. Who's going to go on a Friday night? And then they had 50,000 people show up. 50,000 people for a spring game on a Friday night. So that's what kind of tells me, like, yeah, a school like K-State, a school like Iowa State, that usually they're not even going to have good turnouts when they have good seasons, might start to move away from it. But a school like Oklahoma, a school like Texas, like you mentioned Alabama, Nebraska, they're never going to move away from the spring game.
And they shouldn't. It's part of their culture. It's important to their fans. For me, spring games are simply about marketing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're trying to push season ticket sales. You're trying to get a little momentum built for your program, and you got to do whatever you need to do to be effective in that area. And I don't think a spring game per se is serving that purpose at Kansas State. It didn't under Bill Snyder, but maybe that was because it was so boring. And let's be honest, maybe that just completely tainted people's views of spring games. Maybe Chris Kleiman would come out and the spring game would actually be competitive and fun. As Marcus Watts says, the best way to do it was what Ron Prince did and have the coordinators as head coaches and draft players. I think it's pretty cool. It was a cool way to do it. It was kind of intriguing. You could actually do it now, streaming on Facebook and other things, which would make people kind of excited and pick their team they wanted to root for, and they could wear their purple or their white to the game. I don't know. Maybe that's part of the way to do it, but Chris Kleiman is not a fan.
Right.
He said that on the record. I'm not a fan. I think you're better served. You get 15 practices. Use the 15 practices. However, the spring showcase, I don't think we'll see the same thing next year. I think we'll see a hybrid maybe half. I kind of enjoyed the drills, actually, with the coaches talking. I actually kind of enjoyed it. But, we get to hear from the coaches, but I thought it was cool for the fans.
Yeah, no doubt for the fan.
And then, I think maybe half of a football game would be more than enough for most people.
We've long said that Ron Prince did it right, okay? He did it right. He did regular season game intros right. He did the spring game right. I mean, yell at the man all you want for everything he did wrong for K-State and K-State football. He did the spring game right.
He did spring. Well, they had a carnival.
And it was a damn fun carnival.
They were supposed to have the Goo Goo Dolls.
They were supposed to have the Goo Goo Dolls.
Sad.
Matt Walters has never recovered from that. It's his favorite band of all time.
Poor guy.
I think it's funny how that got canceled. Wasn't it compliance stuff? Was that what it was?
No, I think the promoter went under.
Oh, okay.
Because it was a series of concerts all across the country.
Right.
I was 12. I wasn't going to the concert regardless.
Goo Goo Dolls is one of those bands I'm like, I think I'd recognize their music. I know I'd recognize some songs, but for the most part, I'm not going to the Goo Goo Dolls.
Yeah.
I don't know. Here we go. Next question.
From Cornelio, I know you guys don't care for them in general, but if the three of you were put in charge of organizing a spring game in Manhattan, tell me how you'd construct it.
I just did, kind of.
I mean, I do think that's a good idea. Or just screw it. Do ones and ones.
Do ones against ones?
KU did it.
Well,
their
ones are kind of twos. Let's be honest.
Well, K-State almost lost to those twos last year, so maybe we should pump the brakes. I'd make it more interesting on the field, whether it is ones versus ones or whether it is a draft. K-State was moving in the right direction this year with the fan interaction stuff, the activities, things like that. They took it a little far. The science thing was a flop, and I didn't even go to it. Like, I just know it was a flop because of what they showed on the video board. The bowl trophies were probably cool, but it was on the east side, so I didn't get to see. I didn't see them. I didn't see if other people went over to see them. Find the perfect balance between this year's fan interaction and the carnival fan interaction. I don't know what that is. I don't have the answer for it. But make it an event, because nobody's coming to tailgate. Nobody's coming. I mean, some people will tailgate. Nobody's coming to have the big event. But I tell you what, that gear sale, holy crap, that was such a good turnout for the gear sale. They should do that every week.
They'd probably run out of gear.
Yeah.
Maybe just make gear and then have a
keep
sale.
making it.
That's just stuff we found laying around. It's brand new gear. You're selling it at regular prices.
Yeah, Skylar Thompson doesn't have a football jersey for the game because they sold it.
I'm sorry, Sky. We could make some money off it, so we sold that. You're going to have to wear it different.
They should do it every year, though. It was an incredible thing. They made money, I'm sure.
Well, one of the things I'd like to see them do is what Kansas did, and they actually got this right. They forced everyone onto one side. They had photos. Wow, a lot of people showed up. 3/4 of the stadium were completely empty, but they forced everyone into the one side. It looked like a high school game, which is not the first time that's happened.
They have in the past when there's been like construction.
Oh.
Like when they were redoing the west side, and then I think some stuff on the east side.
Well, I think they didn't let anyone into the. I think you could get into the the north end zone and the.
Yeah.
Which I understand.
But not the south. The south end zone was
shut off. Like I said, I would probably do a draft. I would probably do a half of a football game and do other things during the rest of the time. But I don't know. I told him this. I would have contests with the players. I'd run 40s. I'd have quarterbacks throwing contests and then have other players do throwing contests. I'd do the same thing with punters. Do punting and place kicking and then have other players do it. Different combine things, not just the 40. Maybe do the shuttle, do some of those things. I think doing combine type things are actually more interesting than just regular drills, or just put a complete stop to it and use the practice. Go shut her down, have a 15th practice, have a press conference following spring football, and call it good. One of the two, but I don't think the culture of Kansas State football will accept a full scrimmage ever again, because Bill Snyder just kind of he poisoned the well. It was awful to watch, and I don't think fans are going to invest their time in it.
I always liked what Oklahoma did. I don't know if they still do it, but they used to do offense versus defense, and then defense scored points for sacks, interceptions, fumbles, fourth down holds, whatever.
That's
but like
fun.
It makes it fun. You can
gotta keep track.
You can modify the rules of the game of football to make something fun and entertaining that you're not going to show much and you're not going to get hurt.
I noticed Alabama adapted the steak and then the beanies and weenies meals.
I like that a lot. I thought that was another Ron Prince thing they did well.
Yeah, they have taken that on. I'm telling you, Ron Prince, spring football game extraordinaire.
Ron Prince, visionary and total jerk.
From Powercat Ryan, after seeing some open practices and a brief scrimmage, what positions do you feel have the most talent, and what positions need the most immediate attention?
The defensive line absolutely is one of the, if not the most talented positions across the board, just because of depth, because of experience, and that experience goes a long way. You can say all you want about talent, how talented is a guy like Joe Davies or like Jordan Mitty, and I'll allow you to have that argument, but you cannot replace experience, and so you got to go with that. But I also think the wide receivers, obviously we've talked at length about the wide receivers this year, but the wide receivers have stupid depth.
Yeah.
Wyking Gill got, 70 yards or something like that? Whatever long that pass was, and he's going to be the fourth best option at best. That's crazy.
No, they're good. I mean, you got Schoen, you got Risen, you'll have Zuper back. That'll probably be your main three, and then you got Gill, and you keep going, man. I mean, you've got a long list of players there that Sebastian Taylor seems to be getting more traction with this coaching staff than the last one. So I'm really, really excited.
Was there a question about the lack? Was it a two-part, or was it just the most talented? I'm sorry, I forgot.
What needs the most immediate attention?
Okay.
Running back.
Running back.
This is a mess. I mean,
It's pretty telling when Chris Kleiman says, we got some freshmen coming in that we think will be able to help. So, oof.
I think Gilbert's the only guy you're going to see on the field on a regular
Really?
basis. Maybe Trotter a little bit, but
I've been more impressed with Trotter.
I think when it comes down to it, you're going to go with the experience there, and we'll see. I think Trotter will get. Look, they played 4 guys last season at North Dakota State. They'll do that when they don't have a dude. They've had a dude before up there, but I think we're going to see that. We're going to see about 4 guys. Gilbert and Trotter probably be 2 of them. I guess Burns could get involved in that again, but he's kind of taking a year off. Isn't easy, I know, because I've taken about 20 years off. It's just not good for you. So running back's a real concern for me.
I'll be honest, the linebacker spot is scary to me now.
Yeah.
You lose Justin Hughes, and you lose talent, you lose a leader, you lose depth, because now DeQuan Patton or Elijah Sullivan is the number 1 or the number 2, and not the number 3 or the number, You have to start digging deeper. And
I think Sullivan was the backup. Now he's going to move back in, ironically. Hughes took his spot after Sullivan got injured. They're really only using 2 linebackers. They are in a nickel. When they call the nickel essentially the same linebacker, you know what they're doing. They're running a 4-3, but with a nickel, so they're in a nickel. It's very interesting. I think you might see some guys shuffle around. I really do. Or some late additions that maybe they'll find someone they like and they'll bring them in.
From Purple Poncho Villa, how shocked would you be to see Skylar just light it up this fall with a full arsenal of wide receivers that were not good enough last year?
Kid's confident.
Well, I think he feels really good about himself and where he fits into this offense. You got to have a running game to complement it. Though this offense is based on balance. It's very Snyder-like in that. You're going to see some principles. If you were one that wanted to throw the ball 95% of the time, you're going to be disappointed. If you're all about flash over substance, you're going to be disappointed. This offense is substance, and part of that substance is running the ball. So they're going to have that complement to free him up to throw the ball. But if that happens, I think he's in for a big season. I think he's going to surprise people.
I feel like he's going to have a connection with Hunter Rison, and I hate putting this much pressure on Hunter Rison because we did it with Carlos Strickland, and it didn't pan out, and we've done it with a little bit Sebastian Taylor, and so far it hasn't been any kid's young, whatever. I just feel like every I guess Byron Pringle to an extent, and it took him a while to get going. I feel like we always see a receiver, and we look at him and we say, holy cow, like, they're going to be clicking, they're going to be going, this is going to be special, and then it takes them a while to get going. So I hate to sit here and continue to just pile on the Hunter Rison praise and set this bar unreasonably high for him, because I think it's a little bit unfair to a kid that hasn't played football in, 2 years now. But I think there's something there, and I feel like if you have a guy, you're going to be in a lot better shape. He's had some guys over the last few years. He's had Isaiah Zuber, and Dalton Schoen's been a very consistent receiver, but he hasn't had a go-to guy. He hasn't had a guy that can just go up and get the ball. And I think that Hunter Rison could do that, and I think that's going to take a lot of pressure off of Skylar.
I agree.
From I Like Pickles Cat, we have heard several times that Kleiman doesn't view this job as a rebuild. Do you see that as true?
Yeah.
I think in some ways he means that. In other ways, he's being optimistic for the fan base. I think he recognizes that there are some very good players on this football team. There are some elements with which they can be competitive right away. There's just not enough. It gets back into the concern that always K-State football, at least in Snyder 2.0, ran into. They had a good front line. They could play with anyone. They can compete. Then injury started, and they just didn't have enough dudes. And we saw that last year when they got into injuries. You could see a drop-off. So there's not enough guys. The real thing they need to rebuild is the depth of this program. They need those guys that are trying to earn playing time really to be good enough to play. They just can't get past the better players in front of them. That's what great programs do. That's what, pretty good programs do. You see injuries, they plug someone else in. Maybe there's a drop-off, but not so much that it's going to end up in losing a game. We saw that happen in 2012 at Baylor. One injury, and it was such a dramatic drop-off. And granted, it happened when, Ty Zimmerman was replaced by Dante Barnett, a guy that ended up being a great football player, but he wasn't ready at the time. They needed a bridge in between them. And I think that's what he recognizes. We got some dudes. We really have some dudes. We've got a quarterback. We had a real leader at linebacker. Unfortunately, Justin Hughes got hurt. They feel good about their leadership. They've got some real natural leaders. They got guys that work hard. They just don't have enough depth. And my gut instinct is we're going to see that 105-man roster shuffled. And I think I mentioned this earlier in an earlier podcast. I think we're going to see some guys that had preferred walk-on status or were, guys that were on scholarship just kind of disappear over the summer as the rebuild starts. You got to open up space for new bodies.
I mean, I think, yes, in terms of that, it could be considered a rebuild, but I also don't think he's coming into this year and saying, probably not going to go to a bowl game. I think he's expecting to go to a bowl game.
Yeah.
So to an extent, yes, I think he could see it a rebuild in a way that Fitz kind of mentioned some reasons there, but I don't, somebody said a couple weeks ago to me and asked me, do you think he's setting the bar low intentionally? That way he can underachieve and kind of have a bad first year. And I don't know. He's not expecting to go 12-0. But
I haven't picked up any of that. He expects this team to – look, he just needs 6 wins to go to a bowl game.
It's not that hard to get. It's really not.
I mean, they've got to win those 2 non-conference games at home. And,
well, hey, we'll get into that next question.
So it's, the bar's, passable. And I think he believes this team's good enough to get to a bowl game. But contend for a Big 12 title? No, it's not ready to do that. It wouldn't have been ready to do that with Bill Snyder. I said it last year. The talent pool was dwindling under Coach Snyder. His reluctance to recruit slowly was eroding the foundation of what he had built. And it finally kind of hit the tipping point. And it was literally a tipping point, just one drive difference between going to a bowl and not going to a bowl. But that's how precarious it had become under Coach. And unfortunately, that's just a reality. They had gotten themselves into a position where they just didn't have enough dudes. And the pool had wound down to about as shallow as you could have and get by. Well, that's what's been inherited. They're trying to refill that pool as quickly as possible. But look, I think if they get to 7 wins next year, I'll be pretty happy. And anything above that, I'll be overjoyed.
From Wildcat Wabash, last question of the first half. What is your way too early record prediction for next year? I can go through the schedule if you want me to.
I didn't want to do this, but I did the way too early Big 12 basketball projection, so I think we can do this. Yeah. I think we can do this.
Nichols.
Let's go game by game. That's a win.
Bowling Green.
Win.
At Mississippi State.
Loss. That is a huge game.
If they win,
the pendulum swings.
Chris Kleiman has a rocket on his back if they win.
I mean, Mississippi State's going to have a new quarterback. They're going to be in some rebuild that maybe they didn't go through in the first year of their coach. Well, we'll see. I'm kind of. He knows how to go pull the upset. We know that.
Yeah,
we know that for sure.
That's kind of what I'm a little iffy about. I think that Mississippi State could look at him and go, killed him last year there.
Yep, exactly. Got a new coach. Who cares? Here we go.
Then at Oklahoma State.
Well, I'll say loss.
They got a new quarterback.
I know.
I think they can win that one.
So Riley, you're at 3.
I mean, if I'm going, I'll say 3. Yeah.
Okay, I'm at 2.
You're at 2. Home against Baylor.
Win. I think Baylor was an aberration. I don't think Baylor's.
I think they're fine. I don't think they're
fine. They're just going to be okay.
Home against TCU.
I'm going to say win. Only because it's at home.
What if Alex Stilton comes in here and just lights it up? I'm talking 400 yards.
I love the kid, but he won't.
Yeah, he won't. Yeah, I'll go win.
So we're at 5-1, Riley.
Yeah,
and Fitz here at 4-2. Okay,
it's a favorable start to conference play.
It really is. Yeah.
Then home against OU.
Loss.
Loss.
Then you go at KU.
Win.
At Texas.
Loss.
Home against West Virginia.
New coach. They're very.
I gotta see who they bring in as a quarterback. Who are they going to put out there? I don't know. Maybe they have one.
Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say loss only because they'll win either TCU or West Virginia.
Yeah, and I need to give another loss on this schedule before I end up predicting 10-2, so or something like 9-3. So I'm going to go.
You're at 6.
I'm going to go 6-4.
6-4. At Texas Tech.
I think they win. I think that's a game they're going to steal on the road.
I do too.
I think they're going to have some real adjustment problems down there.
Yeah, I'll go win.
And then home against Iowa State.
That's a program that's moving in the right direction, and I like the way they're moving. But I feel like last year K-State was still better than them, and they played god-awful. But I don't want to predict them to go 8-4.
Well, here we are.
I'm going to do it. It's the way it's April 17th. Nobody's going to remember this in a week, or maybe they will.
Oh, bowl.
Yeah, that's right. Everybody.
One of your haters is going to write this down. And if they go 8-4, you won't say a word. But the second they go 7-5, you suck, man.
If they go 9-3, I will have not had enough faith in the program.
Yeah, exactly. Why did you underestimate? I'm going to say.
I'll say 8-4. Screw it.
I usually want to go through each game, but honestly, I don't know enough about K-State or the opponents at this point that I feel like comfortably do that. Kind of need a summer to digest everything. I'll say win here only because I do think they'll win 7 games. So maybe going game by game, I'm not specifically getting those games right, but I think they will be 7-5 at the end of the regular season, and we will be heading back to the Cactus / Doritos / Krabby Bowl.
Who do we think is going to sponsor them next year?
I think Cheez-It's on board.
Oh, God.
I do not want to go to that bowl game ever again.
We could golf.
Look,
we could golf.
I'm tired of the bowl games that they've got contracted.
How does every other conference this last year reassign multiple bowl games, and the Big 12 says, we're going to stick.
Yeah.
We're going to stay put. Everyone else traded this year.
This Las Vegas Bowl thing really has me upset. And I understand that maybe the Las Vegas Bowl didn't want the Big 12. I get that. But that opened up other things. Some pieces moved around, and they just said, oh, we're fine. We're fine. That Cheez-It Bowl is a piece of crap. It is the stepchild of the Fiesta Bowl. And some ways they do a good job, in other ways they just kind of...
I feel like we're treated lesser when we cover the Cheez-It Bowl.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You should be. But that's part of the problem. It's not a big deal to the community. They're like, oh, I kind of feel like you're the JV game. The crowd's there.
It's the undercard.
Right. But nobody really cares about you. I don't know. I think there's other opportunities out there. You know how I feel about Las Vegas, and not getting into the Las Vegas Bowl hurt an awful lot. I don't know. I remain bewildered by the lack of vision of the leadership of this conference. They always seem to just be, oh, well, we're okay. It's okay. Let's not change. Let's not do that. No, let's not expand. Oh, okay, we lost 2 teams. We'll just add 1. Well, okay, we'll just stick with the bowls we have. And honestly, you know what? What is it? The Camping Bowl?
Camping World Bowl.
Screw that thing, man. I mean, I know it's considered a good bowl, but
it's the only bowl K-State hasn't been to of the current lineup.
I know there's some allure, and I think it's an old school allure of going to play in Florida. I get that, but again, that's not a bowl. People are like, oh, I want to go to the Camping Bowl. I mean, we're told we can't have more teams in playoffs. We can't have playoffs because how important the bowls are. They're named the Cheez-It Bowl and the Camping World Bowl. I mean, come on, who cares at that point? When you completely compromise who you are over that, then there's not a real tradition with it. I don't know, but that's what I think will happen. They'll end up back in Arizona. Fans will go, oh, no, we really want to go back to Arizona. But we'll see. We'll see if Chris Kleiman and the staff light a fire under the fan base. That honestly has been dwindling, has kind of turned to a smolder. People were tired of the same old. And unfortunately, going 7-5 and ending up in the Cheez-It Bowl would feel like the same old. We'll see how that lands. But that's where I see this program going in 2019. But that's upward. That's upward from 5-7. That's the first half of the Powercat Podcast, brought to you by Fridge Wholesale Liquor. We were brought to you by Tanner's in the first half, and we'll be back right after this break with more of the Powercat Podcast, straight from the WTC Gig Powered Studios.
The Powercat Podcast continues shortly.
I'm trying to get a group text in on what everybody wants on the liquor store run, but my phone keeps autocorrecting liquor store to the fridge.
A fridge or the fridge?
The fridge. It just did it again.
Well, the fridge is more than just a liquor store. The fridge has over 3,000 wines in stock, the area's largest selection of spirits and craft beers. Plus, they're back-to-back winners of Beverage Dynamics Retailer of the Year.
Oh, I get it. Wow, smartphone.
Autocorrect your next liquor store visit to the Fridge Wholesale Liquor, 1150 Westport in Manhattan. Online at fridgeliquor.com.
For more than 20 years, there's only been one reliable source for exclusive and unmatched premium K-State sports news content. It's GoPowercat.com. The tradition continues as Tim Fitzgerald, D. Scott Fritchen, and the other Go Powercat sports experts continue their relentless coverage of K-State sports. So make sure you're subscribing to the one and only Go Powercat. Hey, K-State fans, it's time to come home to GoPowercat.com. We now return to the Powercat Podcast.
Welcome back to the Powercat Podcast, sponsored by Fridge Wholesale Liquor from our new studio, our podcasting studio, one of the two WTC Gig Powered Studios. And this segment's brought to you by the High Low. Man, we keep eating lunch there. It's
Yeah, we got
good. Oh, my God. So last week I was batching it. The wife was on a business trip for 5 days.
I was batching it.
He mentioned it last week, and it was just
So,
odd.
what? You never heard that phrase?
I never
batching
heard batching it.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are such kids. Anyhow, the wife's out of town, and, you know, that used to mean debauchery. Now it means I get to hang out with the dogs more. So, but we went to the High-Low after last week's podcast, and we all had some delicious food. And I ordered a slice of mac and cheese and a large pizza for lunch. And I took that pizza home, most of it, and ate it throughout the time. It was wonderful.
Zach and I were contemplating. Look, I love all their pizza, and I could eat so much of it. But if you eat 2 slices at the High-Low, you're gonna feel pretty miserable because it's a lot of food. So I was toying with the idea of getting 2 slices, and I said, "Screw it, I'm gonna get 2 slices." And then Zach said, "I'm gonna do something different." And so Zach proceeds to get a slice of pizza and some cheese bricks, right?
Solid move.
And so I went, okay, that's great. I could have a slice of pizza, and I'm going to have a little extra food, but it's not going to be too much, you know. It's going to be a good amount. It's not quite a full slice. Guys, it was
Way
so
too
much
much
food.
food.
It was so much food.
When you both ordered, I'm like, you guys sure you don't want to split an order?
We should have done that.
Yeah. Should have done it.
Split an order of pepperoni bricks, and then we can get mac and cheese pizza. You can get meat. You can get the good pizza.
Well,
now, Zach's not going to have mac and cheese pizza for a while.
I am taking a hiatus from mac and cheese pizza following the early morning hours of
Night of
Sunday.
debauchery. Night of debauchery.
Yeah, it did not go out the proper end the next morning.
Oh,
Thanks, pal.
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're
Well, anyhow, that's a
mac and cheese products after a night out in Aggieville for me are 0 for 2 in the last.
I just like how he's blaming the mac and
years.
cheese and not the fact that he
I
consumed a little too much.
think I'm onto something though.
I don't think you are at all.
well, lovely. That's
I
a
think you
ringing
just-
endorsement for our sponsor.
I think you're just not. I just don't think you're very well trained.
Look, I'll just say this:
It's okay to call me a lightweight.
If
It's
you're
okay.
going to throw up what you drank, you should also make sure you eat things with that'll be okay coming back up. Like, you don't want any sharp corners. You don't want any like really aggressive flavors. I feel like mac and cheese is not bad.
It's not good.
Okay. One time, when I was much younger, I ate a bunch of sweet tarts, and then I ended up with the flu, and I threw up sweet tarts, and it was actually like, hey, this is the way to go. I don't know how we got on this. Here we go. questions from Wabash Station. We're going to kind of, the river's going to wind a little bit in the second half here. We'll start with a little football, get into some basketball. I think we'll probably get into some skeet shooting and some rodeo.
Nice. Oh, wow.
I don't feel like that's true.
Okay.
But we'll start with football.
Sources say.
Here we go. Zach Carlson, your questions from Wabash Station on the Powercat Podcast.
From Powercat Ryan, are we as fans overreacting to K-State not hitting some of the top 10 in-state recruits?
Well, I'm going to say being disappointed is fine, but it's not the end of the world. It's the end of the world if you're losing them to Kansas. All right? You got a kid that, when I saw he was visiting Nebraska earlier, and I'm like, oh, Cochran's going to Nebraska. I just sensed it. Losing a dude to Iowa State, that stings. But there's a lot of talent in Kansas and the Kansas City metro area this year. And as they've proven with some recruiting gets here as of late, they're casting a wide net. They want to get guys in state, but they're working outward from there, and they're finding dudes. They'll go find guys. Don't worry. This staff will recruit much better than the previous staff, simply out of effort.
I think it's just, to me, it's not like basketball where, Perry Ellis goes to Kansas, or the one kid goes to Loyola. Well, he didn't go to Loyola. Custer, blanked on his name, went to Iowa State to start, and then went to Loyola and took him to the Final Four and things like that. It's not like that to me because there's more options all across the board. And you're expanding into new territories, You've never tapped into California and Hawaii and the Samoan guys, and you've never really had some of the resources that some of these other coaches have had, and maybe their connections in different parts of the country. Football is a big recruiting game. Recruiting classes are huge. There's so many people. And yeah, it hurts to lose in-state guys that you've been working on for a really long time, that are 60 miles away or 90 miles away, whatever. And they're not only going somewhere, they're going, like you said, Iowa State, or they're going to Nebraska, a school you don't like. I get the hate or the being upset about that. But to me, it's not the end of the world. It's not like they put all their eggs in these baskets and signing day is tomorrow. I think that you've got plenty of time left to go out and find somebody else that you can fill those holes with. So I'm not panicking yet. I would say I'm a little disappointed in some of them, but plenty of fish in the sea.
Yes. Don't worry about it. I mean, look, they didn't sign. They committed.
That too.
They didn't sign, they committed. And let's just say it. Everyone in Nebraska thinks, okay, season 2 under Scott Frost, everything's okay. He started to solve things. What if not? What if they kind of come out and struggle a little bit again?
What if Matt Campbell finally gets the call that he needs? Although he did just get extended. So I would
like to announce that I am reopening my recruitment. No interviews at this time.
So, yeah, it's not over. Maybe it is. Maybe those kids have their doors shut to everything else, but there's a lot of talent out there, and they are casting a wider net. They're digging. They are putting so much more energy into recruiting. There's no way that this recruiting class won't help rebuild the depth. And let's be really blunt here. K-State would get some good players under Bill Snyder, but they would also sign a lot of players that would be here and gone. Mm-hmm. That you would never remember they were around if I said their name. So that's really what it's about to me. They need to get some headliners, some playmakers. But the other guys they need as much depth out of the recruiting class as they can possibly find.
From Powercat Ryan, are coaches using today's NCAA transfer portal basically the same way Snyder 1.0 used the JUCO recruiting?
It's an interesting analogy, yeah. It changes so much of the game. Because a kid that you didn't think you wanted the first time around, or a kid you weren't that interested in the first time around, wasn't interested in you. It's totally different now. You've seen him play at this level. You know that you actually might want him. And there's some different changes along here and there. It's been 2-3 years. We can go pick this kid out of the transfer portal. The transfer portal is fascinating to me. It's like a pool that you just get to pick from.
It's like Tinder for
it's
recruiting.
like Tinder.
Awesome.
Holy crap.
It is. You know what? It's one of the best things for student athletes that I've come across in a long, long time. But it's not good for programs, and so now we're seeing on the basketball side a movement to restrict it.
It's a headache for me. I hate following the transfer portal, man.
Well, look, it's good for student athletes. I am firm on this. They owe you nothing as a university. They got their damn degree. And if they did it in 4 years, you had a 4-year window to play them, but you didn't. You redshirted them. They got their degree. It is their college football career. It didn't belong to the schools. I know it causes problems for kids transferring, and it leaves the program in a lurch. I get that. But why do they want to leave you? Maybe you should ask that question. Maybe they're transferring up. Maybe they're transferring down. Doesn't matter. What Alex Delton did from Kansas State's perspective hurts. He was going to go to UTEP. Everyone's like, oh, well, good for him. He'll play a lot. Then he goes to TCU. Oh, that sucks. It's good for Alex Delton. He has his degree from Kansas State University. He gave the university 4 years. He played 3. He's got a degree, and he's got another year of eligibility. Damn it, let him go play where he wants to go play. His obligation to Kansas State, in my view, was done. It's his career. It doesn't belong to the university or the NCAA. And if they start restricting on the basketball side, which is what they're talking about, then it's going to get it's going to be really unfortunate. It'll be another ironclad indication to me that all this crap the NCAA promotes about student athletes is just crap. It's about TV money and about being good for their power schools and making as much money off these kids as possible. If they get their degree along the course, that's great. We're gonna talk about that a lot, but really, we don't care if they want to. If it's inconvenient for us, that doesn't matter. We're not going to let them transfer. And there's a movement to restrict it in basketball. Why not every sport? Why just basketball?
Oh, but when you get the transfer, by the way, then it's okay. Oh, we got Hunter Rison out of the transfer market. That's a great addition.
Well, that was just a transfer, not a grad transfer.
I get that, but transfer portal is open to everybody.
Yeah. From Purple Poncho Villa, buy or sell, K-State football recruiting is just fine given where we are at today.
Buy.
Oh, buy.
Buy.
Yeah. I would have sold it last year. Last year on this podcast, heading into that last season, I would have sold.
Yeah.
I knew the program was eroding slowly. I could see it. I couldn't make people understand it. I mean, if you're a true believer, you were a true believer. But I think buy. Now, will they ever be back to, I'm sitting here in our new studio staring at photos of Sproles and Newman and Semino. We got a bunch of images of the greatest players since we started our company in '98, football and basketball. I don't know if they'll ever get to that level, but maybe. He's used to being at that level, granted at a lower program. But it's going to take that's something that's not going to happen overnight. They're going to have to stair-step it up and then finally start landing those guys. But if you can go out and find a bunch of Wyatt Huberts, you're going to play pretty close to that level because that dude is legit.
Dude is huge.
He's huge. He's fast.
I'm also buying it because you missed on 2. You missed on 2 players.
Yeah. And there'll be more. You're not going to get everyone.
You're going to miss on some kids in football recruiting. Is anybody selling Kansas State basketball recruiting right now because they didn't get some of the big ones they were after in 18 and 19? Like, no, you're not happy about it, but you're certainly not selling because you feel pretty comfortable about some other additions you added. 1 player, 2 players don't make a class. Hell, those kids might be flops for all you know. There was a kid from, I think, Hiawatha a few years ago. Went to Nebraska. You've hardly heard a word out of him.
Yeah, he was.
Things are okay. It's gonna be okay.
It'll work out, and like I said, it's not over. But just calm down. Calm down. There's a lot of players out there in football. I'm looking at Jordy Nelson. Talk to me about his recruitment. He turned out okay. There's dudes out there. Kids, football more than basketball. Kids develop at different paces, and some kids don't blow up into the physical specimens you need to be to play college football, maybe until their freshman year of college. So they don't look particularly great in high school, but then you see something about them and they develop. So I'm not too worked up. I was disappointed. I'll just say this whole pipe dream of everyone playing together, we're all going to get to all the players and we're going to play together. That's like, hey guys, we're going to go out and do some fishing this weekend. Are y'all in? Yeah, I'm in. And then Friday afternoon, and I can't go. My girlfriend called. She doesn't want me to go. I mean, that's essentially what's happening. We found something better. I know I wanted to play with all you guys, but Nebraska called. I'm going to go there. See ya. Boom. That's what's happened.
From KSU Thrill, are there any concerns with Coach Frazier leaving?
No, yeah, we switched basketball. I was like, who's Coach Frazier?
My brain just...
Never heard of the guy.
Frazier. Never met her. No. Look, I think that there are some concerns in terms of, just first and foremost, you lose your core. That was one of the things that I've found most fascinating about this staff. And coincidentally, I was going to write a story on it here in a week or two, was how they have success at so many levels, and yet they never lose anybody. And then, this happens. But I don't know, and if you're looking at this too right now, but so I think Chester Frazier is a good recruiter. I think he has the energy to relate to kids. I think he can go out and sell a program better than somebody that's older. But the results kind of speak for themselves.
The results do speak for themselves. And look, he got Kamau and Barry, and that was program changing. That's great. But if you're a recruiter, you better be adding a piece or two every year that is going to lend itself to the program moving forward. Nigel Johnson, Javon Thomas, Neville Fincher, Isaiah Maurice, Brian Patrick, Cartier Jada, James Love, Mike McGurl. Those were these other recruits. And Justin Edwards is on this list, but he was a transfer, so I don't count him. That's a lot of trash. There's a few good players in there. There's, Jada and McGurl's okay. That's a lot of junk that ran through the program because they were misevaluated. So I don't know. I think they can do better. I think he served his purpose. Landon, Cam, and Barry cannot be underestimated what it meant. But, it is what it is. They'll hire someone new, and hopefully they'll go out and they'll have that gift of seeing what makes those kids great on a more consistent basis. Or maybe they'll be able to go get the really proven players and beat some people out, because Kansas State basketball should be getting a higher level of recruit than it is.
Well, I think we're going to touch on this here in a second, but I'm not so concerned about Chester leaving. I'm concerned about who they add. Who do you get to replace him, because you can easily fill this void.
There's a lot of dudes out there. By the way, that list was from Ryan Wallace. He did the research on that, and he also did much of the research along with you on the hot board of assistant coaches, which we put up for potential assistant coaches for our
I feel pretty good about that.
Here's the question. If you talk to people close to the program, they feel like Bruce Weber is nearing retirement. 2 years? Nah, maybe 3, probably 4. This would be his last group. But he's in the final stages. He's not going to be a Snyder and go into his 70s. He's going to go off and enjoy life. Maybe he'll be a Snyder, and when it gets near, he'll go, no, what am I going to do? He loves to go recruit and coach basketball. There's no doubt about it. So maybe when it comes down to it, he'll decide to stay. But I think that makes it difficult, and I think this played a role in Chester Frazier leaving, that knowing that eventually your boss is going to retire, and then what happens to you. So he hopped on board at Virginia Tech with a new coach and new staff. That gives you at least 3 years, but maybe a lot longer. And maybe it opens up doors to something else if that doesn't work. So I think that was a reality. And then replacing him also becomes a problem. Does someone want to hop on board here? Are you going to catch a rising star like D. Brown? And does he want to come in and then have coach retire on him? And then probably the program moves outside? I don't know. I think they'll probably just recycle someone. That's my guess. They'll recycle someone that is comfortable with that needs the job right now and was happy even if there's a risk long term to it.
From
Did you lose a place there, buddy?
Yep, sorry. From AZCat05, what qualities would you like to see in the coach that replaces Frazier? What does this staff need?
You need a young and an energetic guy. I'm not saying you have to find Chester Frazier 2.0, but let's look at the facts. Bruce Weber is old. Chris Lowry is older. Brad Korn is young-ish, but he's not a very energetic guy. He's pretty mellow. He's pretty basic.
He's got a head coach vibe to him.
Yes.
You know, and Chris Lowry was a head coach, and he goes out there and stirs it up a little bit, but he swings on a lot of big guys that can't close on. You need a closer. You need a young guy that's going to go out and get some dudes.
Go look at Chester Frazier's Instagram if you have Instagram, and just kind of like scroll through some of the comments, and you see Barry in there, and you see Cam in there, joking around and poking fun at him. You need someone that players can relate to. You don't need this old staff that, you know, maybe they can coach basketball, but at the end of the day, they don't get there. You know, how much have we criticized Bill Snyder and some of the coaches that were on his staff for just not getting his players, not having that relationship with them? You need something like that. And that's why you know, if you read the VIP story that I put up about D. Brown today, that's why I'm so in the camp of D. Brown. Dude gets it. He can go into a living room and sell the fact that he was on a very successful basketball team and he was the National Player of the Year and an All-American, and he can coach you into that. I think you need a guy like that. That's the route I would go if I was Bruce Weber.
That's the hire that tells me they're in it. Coach is going to retire in 3-4 years, but we got stuff to do between now and then. And we're going to build this program to the point when Coach retires that it's going to get passed on to someone else, and the program's going to keep going. If they just go hire someone from his past that is maybe on the decline of his career or completely unproven, it tells me all you could find is someone that would take the job because it's better than anything else they could possibly find, even though he might be gone. So that's the guy I want. But look, I know some people are like Shane Southwell. No, you do not. This is not. I didn't like the Chester Frazier hire because I don't think Kansas State is a starting job.
Thank you.
It shouldn't be a starting job. You only have 3 full-time assistant coaches in basketball, and one of them is an associate head coach, which is someone that's recognized as you got some teeth. You know, you've been around. You're Chris Lowry. You were a successful head coach. It wound down. You lost your job, okay, but you're proven in the marketplace that you can coach. That's an associate head coach. And then with that, you should have 2 other guys, and they need to bring something to the table. And damn it, they need to bring someone to the table that can get it done on the recruiting trail, because that's what's holding the program back. It's the same thing that we talked about with Snyder football recruiting. They're getting some guys, but they're not getting enough guys. You shouldn't be talking about the kind of rebuild they're going to have to go through because you lost 3 players? 3? I mean, some programs lose 7. They'll have 7 seniors. You lost 3. Because the reality is a lot of the guys that are occupying your scholarships right now can't play, man. They're not of this level. They recruited for the Valley and got mediocre to bad Valley players. But they do go get Big 12 players. They need to get more of that, and that's what I want to see from that, and that's why I'm with Riley. I want D. Brown.
Last question of the second half from KSUCat 80. Of all of the coaches on your hot board to replace Frazier, who are your favorite coaches to hire and why?
Well, I just mentioned D. Brown there, just because I guess I kind of listed the reasons. I really like him. I think he's one step away from getting to the point, getting to a Kim English. You know, Kim English needed a chance, and now he's out at different Power 5 schools. I like Marcus Belcher. I think that was an interesting one that we had on there, simply because I think there's a lot to be said about the continuity of a staff. And if you have that many relationships, you know, player under Bruce, assistant with Lowry, and you played with Korn, I think you've got a lot going for you in that direction. Paul Lusk interested me, but I feel like it's a tough sell. Same with Kareem Richardson. So I feel like my top 2 would absolutely be D. Brown as number 1, and then Marcus Belcher as number 2. That was just kind of my initial thoughts looking at it.
Yeah, there's other ones intriguing to me. David Ragland's on that list. That he's out at Utah State, which has been okay. And there's just some guys. Kareem Richardson I do find intriguing. Just because of familiarity, but he didn't do much at UMKC. But some guys are just better assistant coaches.
Chris Lowry.
Yeah, Yeah. I like the guys on the staff that they have in support roles. But just moving a dude up again just feels like the Corn hire. You know, I like Corn a lot, but they looked and said, we're taking the obvious choice.
Right.
And I feel like if they're back in that boat, there's some issues here.
Well, and I think, hell, we were talking about this on the boards. I was talking about with one of the posters on the boards. They were arguing for Shane Southwell, and I said, I like Shane. I think he could be a good coach someday. I don't think K-State's the right first job for him. And they said, well, what about Colin Klein? He's a former player, and he got here young. Colin was a GA, and then he went to Northern Iowa, and then he came to K-State.
Right.
We harp on Sean Snyder all the time.
Football and
Go out
basketball
prove
are
it.
different beasts.
Yeah. Well, but in that type of a mindset, we harp on Sean Snyder that he needs to go out and prove it before he gets a job at K-State or a high-up job at K-State. I feel the same way about the basketball coaches. Go prove to me.
Man, I want Shane Southwell to be a coach, not here first. I want him to go to the Valley or go somewhere and prove that you can go get it done. I bet you he's going to be a good recruiter. I just don't want to gamble the future of Kansas State basketball and finding that out. Let him go cut his teeth somewhere.
That's exactly where I'm at.
That's it for the second half of the Powercat Podcast, sponsored by Fridge Wholesale Liquor. I forgot we were done. We got going on that one, and I forgot we were done.
Yeah, it was a lot of speculation.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
And
the sad thing is recruiting period's open in Bowman.
Signing period is today.
Yeah.
Signing period starts today.
So not great timing.
Not great, Bob.
But that's just the way it worked out. So good. Best of luck to Chester Frazier as he moves on to Virginia Tech, and Kansas State moves on without him. I think things will be fine. We'll see who they hire. This is the Powercat Podcast. We will be back right after this break.
The gang will return with more of the Powercat Podcast.
I'm trying to get a group text in on what everybody wants on the liquor store run, but my phone keeps autocorrecting liquor store to the fridge.
A fridge or the fridge?
The fridge. It just did it again.
Well, the Fridge is more than just a liquor store. The Fridge has over 3,000 wines in stock, the area's largest selection of spirits and craft beers. Plus, they're back-to-back winners of Beverage Dynamics Retailer of the Year.
Oh, I get it. Wow. Smartphone.
Autocorrect your next liquor store visit to the Fridge Wholesale Liquor, 1150 Westport in Manhattan. Online at fridgeliquor.com.
For more than 20 years, there's only been one reliable source for exclusive and unmatched premium K-State sports news content. It's GoPowercat.com. The tradition continues as Tim Fitzgerald, D. Scott Fritchen, and the other Go Powercat sports experts continue their relentless coverage of K-State sports. So make sure you're subscribing to the one and only Go Powercat. Hey, K-State fans, it's time to come home to GoPowercat.com. Back to Fitz on the Powercat Podcast, sponsored by Fridge Wholesale Liquor.
Welcome back to the Powercat Podcast. Where else are losing?
Imagine that. Except the bases are loaded.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. I'm not paying much attention.
Ducks on the pond.
We have, that's one of my favorite baseball slashes.
According to Cody Tapp, though, Adalberto Mondesi is coming to the plate, and he is 0 for 18 on the road this year.
Well, that's weird.
Got to break the streak eventually.
A nice little 42-inch TV in here in the little studio. And I mentioned it earlier, we've got a collection of photos up. That's really cool. You know, most of the room's sound foam. We got one wall that has a print on it and another wall that Kurt tied some closet doors, storage area. We've got 6 of the all-time great basketball players since we started our company in 1998. From left to right, Rodney Magruder, Jake Pullen, Michael Beasley, Cartier Martin, Barry Brown, and the one and only Jeremiah Massey.
Hashtag my guy, Jeremiah Massey.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Massey might be my favorite K-State player of all time.
I'm telling you what, if Jeremiah Massey had been the 4 on last year's team, they'd gone to the Final Four. He played hard, man. He would have fit in perfectly.
Yeah, he really would have.
And plus, he wasn't just a rebound defender guy. He could score. He was fun to watch.
I got to go find my Jeremiah Massey jersey. I have it. Kid you not.
Does it still fit?
I bet I could squeeze into it.
In the middle row, then we got 4 guys. It turned out this way. We picked out the players, and then we realized there's 4 quarterbacks, so we're going to put the quarterbacks up. And then Watts said, well, hold on. You've got 6 Kansas guys and 4 non-Kansas guys. The non-Kansas guys are Michael Bishop, Colin Klein, and Michael Beasley. Jonathan Beasley. We had 2 Beasleys on the wall. And then Ben Lieber. So we put him up on that row, our good friend Ben. And the lower row then is all Kansas guys. We got Jordy Nelson, Mark Semino, Darren Sproles, Terrence Newman, our friend Marcus Watts, and then my good friend Dylan Meyer, God rest his soul. So that's okay. But there might have been an asterisk on 1 or 2 of those Watts.
It's Ron Prince version, Marcus Watts, by the way.
He's the only one that's not in a Bill Snyder jersey.
That was not intentional at all.
But dead serious, though.
It's the only picture available.
Well, we tried to get one of him in a Bill jersey, and the only one of him in a Bill jersey was not good. It was not a good picture.
The intent was to put the injury photo. I wanted a really good photo of him with his legs sticking straight out being loaded into the ambulance, but we couldn't find any because Marcus played football a long time ago.
Didn't we find one of him, like, of Bill talking to him, or am I making that up in my head?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
For some reason, I can, like, picture a picture in
Bill
my
leaning
head
down
of,
and talking to him. Did we find it on Google?
Yeah,
maybe?
yeah,
we found
no,
it on Google.
It was too low res.
Yeah, that's what it was. That would have been hilarious, though. Oh, that would have been good.
I know.
It's still a cool jersey. We hate on Ron Prince. I like the Ron Prince jerseys until
I
he put the Band-Aid on the shoulder.
I like the jerseys better. I mean, I do. I like the K-State under the throat. Mm-hmm. I do. I think it says who you are. People turning on TV need to know that. But, yeah, it's really cool little wall, TV above, a little mini helmet down there signed by my guy Dylan, and a Bill Snyder signed football, and all the rest of our toys and our podcasting island right here in the new WTC Gig Pirate Studios. Hey, we're brought to you by Fridge Wholesale Liquor. Now, make sure you get into the fridge and buy lots of stuff. I make a lot of jokes about the fridge and going in there and get Die Hard and all that, but man, it's just a quality operation. It is extremely well run, and now it's a whole new world with the liquor laws in Kansas changing. You can go buy beer in a grocery store. You can get get what you need there if your needs are basic, but you will never defeat the kind of service and attention and knowledge you will get from the folks at the fridge. So get on into the fridge and get the good stuff. I mean, they know their beers, and Sam working the produce counter isn't going to be able to help you figure out what IPAs they have at your local grocery store. Sam's probably a nice guy, but...
Or he's a total beer snob.
Yeah. I wouldn't buy my beer here. I buy my beer at the fridge. I don't know why Sam sounds like he's from Europe. I have no idea. Royal scored. It's a miracle. Here we go.
Paying attention.
It's the overtime period, and this overtime is brought to you by our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Because Zach still wants you to go sign up to the YouTube channel. It's not just Zach. I do too. Riley does too. Get on over, just sign up to the YouTube channel. And
it's free.
It's free, man. Just do it. Subscribe. I subscribe to all kinds of YouTube channels.
And I know you people use YouTube. Like,
the way you said that just made it sound like you subscribe to some questionable YouTube channels.
I know.
I still subscribe to some channels.
Well, yeah. I don't know what
I know you
questionable
people are on
channels would be.
YouTube. Just get on YouTube.
Just go click. Then
There's an app.
And honestly, the reason why we're on there is we can get everything up quickly. And when we put up something through the CBS player, which is really a big part of our business, there's kind of a lag time. We've got to send it off, and it's got to be put in. So this allows us to do that. And it's kind
it
of
exists on the internet forever.
Yeah,
in one place.
It's a good resource for you to have everything right there. We do so much free content. And it's a whole nother, there's like 2 streams to our business. There's the free stream and the VIP stream. It's a different concept from 24/7 Sports. And even if you're not a subscriber, you'll enjoy the site. But go subscribe to the site. 30% off annual subscriptions from now until whenever. There doesn't seem to be an end to it, but go do it. Go get your 30% off your annual subscription.
First year only.
Yeah, you get one crack at it, folks. None of this, do it, cancel, do it, cancel. None of that. We will track you down. Riley Gates will show up at your door. Yo. That didn't sound like Riley at all.
Hey, man, What you doing?
The hell?
What are you doing?
Here we go. Your questions for Wabash Station as we go into the overtime. I hope it's good. Man, I hope you guys didn't suck this week.
Quick shout out before I start. I went to a local gambling facility last evening. Yeah.
Degenerate.
Yeah, and I was told that they enjoyed someone that I know. So I'm in there like, hey, I like listening to you on the podcast. I don't talk very much, but shout out
Look
to
at that.
Yeah.
They think you're a fine question asker.
Well, you know what that means is someone actually they listen intently.
They listen to the podcast,
because
yeah.
if you're just like, sometimes you can have it on the background, you're doing stuff, and it's like, oh, okay, this fits, oh, this Riley. If you know that Zach's talking,
Yeah.
whoosh, look at you, you listen.
We're popular.
Or
So-
maybe they're just obsessed with you, and they got photos of you in their bedroom. And when Riley and I are talking, they turn away, but when your voice comes on, they whip their head back around and go, Zach.
and the overtime has begun.
So shout out to Craig Ackerman.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, man.
Craig,
Pretending like you weren't going to say his name.
Oh, I wasn't. I was going to say it.
Craig, go ahead and shoot me a photo of your wall of Zach. I know you have one.
I hope you made it to first hour this morning. From Powercat Ryan, what would it take for you to watch a Royals game in its entirety?
Whoa, how cool. What a coincidence. We're doing that right now. I got to be dead honest with you guys. I love watching the Royals. And, like, if I go to a game, I won't miss a pitch. I watch it all, sometimes I'll have the game on while I'm grilling or something like that, and I'll watch the game. But, like, on a Wednesday, Tuesday night, I get home from work, I make some food, and then, like, whether I play PlayStation or I just hang out, whatever, I'm really not watching the Royals because they just aren't very fun to sit there for 4 hours or whatever and watch the bullpen blow another lead.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at, and it's only April.
Well, I'm not a person that... I've always been a Royals fan, but I don't sit and watch an entire baseball game unless it has real meaning.
It's tough.
I mean, it's a big series or postseason. Even in their really good years, I probably watched only a handful of games from start to finish, and those are the ones I'm attending. I could be watching, something really important on TV, and if it goes to commercial, I flip, and then I forget 30 minutes later, like, oh, I was watching something. So, yeah, just the nature of me. But, yeah, it's frustrating to invest the first 2 hours and the last hour of the movie sucks because that's when the bullpen comes in.
From Meow Power, he went, or she, went to the Ville on Saturday after the showcase, and every bar that they went to was empty at 10 p.m. Is this the new norm?
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Well, I want to know what bars, though. I do want to know what bars.
There are some bars that have people in it.
Because, like, Annie Mae's doesn't, like, I think a lot of people like it, but it's not a very packed crowd usually, I don't think.
I've been in there, it was pretty packed.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay. Maybe I just went on 2 bad nights then.
And I've been at Lucha so long. They're always packed at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 different types of bars in Manhattan. The ones that serve almost exclusively the student body, and ones that skew a little bit older. Lucha's so long, Annie Mae's. Tanner's is one that kind of bridges the gap a little bit, maybe a little bit on the older side, and Kites is a little bit on the younger side, but has an older crowd that goes to it. Porter's maybe that way, but there's
Porter's is getting popular.
Yeah, those bars kind of surge and decline through the years. But yeah, the new norm is you don't come out till, well, it used to be 11. Now we're seeing midnight. And this generation, Riley's generation, there's a lot of social media stuff going on. The drinking laws in the state of Kansas, you just have house parties and you go to that, hang out. You got friends. Even if you're 21, half your friends are probably still 20.
It's not even Kansas. It's just RCPD, really.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean,
I also think there's a lot to be said.
Stupid law.
There's a lot to be said for, I think back in your day, you could hit up 2 or 3 bars in a night and go to different ones, or maybe you went to one weekend and then the next weekend you didn't go to a single different, maybe you bounced around a whole lot more than other people did. Anymore, everybody that's a student goes to Cause. That's what they do. It's the popular thing. You go to Cause, and if you don't go to Cause, you go to Yard Bar, which is Johnny
also Cause.
That's what you do. So there's not as many people going to Fats and going. And I think there's a good crowd or a decent crowd at every bar, but Not that many people want to go to Tate's as a student. Everybody goes to Cause just because it's the popular place. They have the cheapest drinks, and it's where you're going to probably see more of your friends. So I have a feeling Meow Power did not go to Cause that night.
I feel like he walked by Tate's, saw it was empty, because Tate's is a late night.
Tate's is empty till 1
night.
a.m.
And then 1 a.m. hits, and then you're like, why is this packed now? It's either packed or it's empty. There's no in between. Cause you can walk by it, and you're like, where is everybody? And they're all in house party.
And then it starts to flood out because there gets too many people there.
Yeah.
At about 11 o'clock, Cause gets really, really packed everywhere in all of their bars. I mean, if you wanted to tell us which bar you went to, I could provide you an explanation as to why that bar was not very populated.
We can analyze your night here.
I will let you know.
Tubby's is usually pretty full.
Yeah, plus,
I don't like going to Tubby's.
One of my favorite bars, because I'm friends with the owner, Dirty Dogs, there's no windows. So you're walking over there and like, man, I bet you it's dead. And you walk in and you're like, holy crap, this place is packed. It's just so weird.
It's also out there, It's not on the main strip.
Away.
It's like on the eastern. It's like Hawaii of Aggieville.
Yes, you're a part of it, but you're kind of not.
It's like you're not in the lower 48 of bars here.
So go ahead and make a post on the message board. Tell us which bar you went to, and I'll provide you an analysis as to why that was not a very populated bar.
I'm just going to say it. Aggieville isn't nearly as fun as it used to be. It's not nearly as populated as it used to be. And that's part generation, part drinking laws, part over-enforcement. People are reluctant to go to Aggieville even if they're of drinking age because there's just so many cops. It looks like a war zone. It looks like a dangerous place, and it's not. RCPD has intentionally, under its former leadership, intentionally tried to hurt the business district by making it look like a dangerous place. And they would, if they had a beef with the bar owner, they would park a cruiser in front with its lights on.
I can tell you it's not for lack of my trying that Aggieville might not be as populated.
You do put it in, Smith, and I'm proud of you, kid. Very proud of you.
From Meow Power, what did you guys think of Tigers' win on Saturday or on Sunday? In your opinion, was it one of the greatest sports moments of all time?
I am not a Tiger guy. I just want to say that right up front. I'm not a Tiger guy. I'm really not a golf person, even though I grew up in a golf household. You talk about watching the Royals being born. I find golf just painfully boring. And I didn't flip over till he was on the 16th hole, maybe finishing up the 15th. And I watched it, and it was really cool. I'm not a Tiger guy, but it was really cool because it was really a story of redemption, both physically and what he went through when his life crumbled because it came out he was a scumbag, basically, and he kind of had to, reinvent himself. And I'm sure that golf is so mental. Having all that out on the table probably really was a distraction for him. His back was bad, other injuries. It was a cool story, a cool moment in sports, and I appreciate it. And if you haven't read Joe Poznanski's column about it, just Google it, go find it. It was one of the best pieces of sports writing. It was a timeless piece of sports writing. It's the kind of sports writing that got me into sports writing that we don't see much of anymore. It was beautiful storytelling that happened to be about sports.
Do you want to take a crack at this first or me?
I don't care. I'll go last.
You can tell me everything you want about Tiger Woods, and I'm not ever going to say that you're wrong for disliking him. I don't think you should cheat on your wife. I don't think you should overuse drugs. I don't think any of that. But I do believe that in life, you screw up a lot. You screw up a lot in life, and you do some really stupid stuff, whether it's on a big scale nationally or a small scale inside of your own family. And Tiger Woods fell on hard times, and he had his human problems. The only difference between him and you listening to this is that he is the most influential athlete in the world currently and potentially all time. So it got broadcasted on a big scale. And then it broke my heart to watch him come back from that and just physically not be able to walk. One of the best golfers of all time, I think the best golfer, and he can't swing a club without collapsing to the ground in pain. And it broke my heart because it sucked. He, like everybody always says, he made golf cool. He made golf cool to play. And so that's why I love Tiger Woods. And I've been cheering for him since the second he won the U.S. Open in 2008 with a torn ACL, and I wanted him to do it again. I wanted Tiger Woods to have success. I wanted him to win a major, and I've cheered for him at every single one. And to watch him go into Sunday sporting the red mock turtleneck, the black cap, the Tiger Woods that we all know, and to be Tiger Woods of old. You know, when everybody else was collapsing, when everybody else was getting nervous, when everybody else was rolling dice that you don't roll at Augusta, when you're attacking the pin, when you should be going left on that green. And to see him not give in, to see him stay maintained, composed, and to win that golf tournament was amazing. But the moments after, hugging his son, that was amazing. Being embraced by other golfers and just seeing the smile on his face. I mean, I could do a whole podcast about how happy I was to watch him win the Masters. I was on cloud 9. It was a great day.
Yeah, it was awesome. I would say that Tiger defines the millennial generation. If you're a millennial, you grew up watching Tiger Woods.
Right.
If you play golf and you're a millennial,
Right.
it's probably because of Tiger Woods.
He bridges a generational gap there. He ties the millennials to my generation, because I made a joke on Twitter that apparently offended some people about it. Really, there's so many middle class white, because that's me. You know, I feel like I can talk about that. It's me that are such big Tiger fans, and they're so excited. They act like he's part of the family. You know, it's like George Brett to Royals fans. It'd be like, you know, all of a sudden Brett coming out and hitting 300 again. This is so substantial, but he ties generations together.
And what's fun about watching Tiger now is in the period that he was gone. So let's take the period before. When he was dominant, it was basically him. He was by himself. You had David Duval was his first kind of main rival that he was, you know, toe-to-toe with. Then kind of Phil, but Phil really didn't win majors until he was much older, until the Masters in 2004.
And they hated each other.
Tiger was dominant. And then he fell off. He loses to Y.E. Yang, and it's kind of over at that point.
He had other Yang problems too, but that's a different topic.
But after that loss, you know, after he loses the PGA there, you know, he falls off for 10 years, basically. In that time, you have the kids that grow up. They talk about the class of 2011 of golfers, like Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, you know, all of those young guys that really are, quite frankly, my age, that came onto the scene, that watched Tiger, grew up watching Tiger, admired Tiger. Tiger made them, essentially. And it was fun. It was fun watching golf when Tiger wasn't there, because there were so many good up-and-comers that anybody could win on any given day. And even if Tiger was there, they would be going toe-to-toe with him. And, like, Tiger would not have an easy time like he had in the past. Golf has evolved so much in the last, 8 to 10 years in equipment, in personal training, in mental game, everything else, recovery. Tiger made golfers athletes, and he's a part of why everything was so competitive over the last 8-9 years with these guys. And it was really fun. Just forget Tiger being in the mix. There were 6 people that were either tied or in the lead on the back 9 of the Masters.
It was the greatest Masters ever.
Who cares who the guys were? But you look at the guys that were in the mix, it's incredible.
The game of golf went from Ben Hogan to Arnold Palmer to Jack Nicklaus, and then there was a window in there where, there were some great golfers, Tom Watson, but there weren't stars like those guys. Then along comes Tiger. And he really saved golf from a point in time where it was kind of off this, sporting lexicon. You talked about other things, but he brought it right back to the front. But he was so dominant. In some ways, it wasn't completely healthy. But you're exactly right, Zach. He created the new generation that has been so fun to watch in his absence. And now the thought of adding him into the mix of all the great golfers that are on tour right now, is there a Tiger Nicklaus type of guy? Maybe not yet, but there's certainly Mickelson, Seve Ballesteros, Tom Watson type guys. It's going to be fun. If Tiger can stay at this level, watching him compete against all the golfers that he helped create, it's going to be pretty cool. It's really going to be cool.
If he doesn't win another major, I'm okay. Like, I want him to break Jack's record, but he deserved one more. He deserved one more, and he got it. And it was the freaking Masters.
I'm glad it was the Masters.
Hearing people talk about the sound on the golf course when it's Tiger.
The Tiger roar.
Only was probably matched in history by Arnie's Army.
Yeah.
That Nicklaus didn't really have this. It's cool, man. It's cool. It means a lot. He's a lightning rod. People love him, or some people hate him, but by God, they watch him. You cannot deny the TV ratings when Tiger's good, and I'm a perfect example of it. I am not a Tiger fan. I'm not a big golfer. I grew up in a golf household. I don't have the patience for the sport, but I've watched it and I've reported on it. Tiger's a great golfer, but I don't worship him. But by God, I turned on the Masters on Sunday or to watch him finish this off because it's that big a story.
I mean, it's fun going to tournaments and you know where Tiger's at on the course just because you see this herd of people just following him. And it's fun to watch Tiger really for only a couple holes being a part of that, and then you go, post up somewhere else. But like I went to the PGA last year, it's almost like that for most of the top guys now. Like you can't get anywhere close to Jordan Spieth. I mean, Jordan Spieth has people like that, Justin Thomas, who else? Rory.
Hell, Bryson has it anymore.
Bryson, Ricky Fowler, like all these guys, DJ, all these guys have people mobbing them, and anymore it's kind of you have to pick a spot and just kind of watch everybody through once, to be able to see everybody. But it's crazy that it's not just an army of Tiger fans anymore. It's packed everywhere.
Thanks for letting us rant about golf. I was really happy that question was in there.
Better than that Fortnite crap.
From AZCat05, who leaves or retires first, Bruce Weber or Bill Self?
I think Bruce Weber.
Well, I'm saying Bill Self.
If Bill Self didn't leave this year, he's not going to leave because the hammer's not going to come.
Has he not left yet?
He announced last night he will absolutely be the coach of Kansas next year.
So Greg Popovich is not retiring?
I mean, I don't know.
He will absolutely be the coach of KU as of last night for next year.
That's fair.
Exactly.
Look, I look at Bill Self as the guy that we all sit here and we can all point to things and be like, oh yeah, he's going to leave soon. And then it just never happens.
Or he does a Billy Donovan and says, I'm coaching the Magic, and then the next day he's like, I'm coaching Florida again.
That was weird. That was really weird. My gut says Bruce Weber.
Okay. I think Self will leave.
I say Bill.
And in some ways, I want Bill Self to stay so that this can be proven that this wasn't an aberration, that the conference is hunting him down and catching up. Because Tech went out and proved this wasn't about KU being bad. This is about other teams being at KU's level. Maybe KU came down a little bit, but Tech was a legitimate team. And Kansas State in conference play played at their level.
From Purple Poncho Villa, how much enjoyment do you get from watching Zach Rudy question from Infected Testicle during the podcast?
He's so uncomfortable with it.
It's so funny.
That scream name never gets old, and he/she deserves to have a question read on every podcast, in my opinion, just so we get to hear Zach pause before he reads who the question is from.
I really want them to seek treatment.
Hey,
that's what I want. I want them to solve this issue.
If Infected Testicle would ask a question on every podcast thread, I would put him or her in every single podcast question thread because it's funny. Zach gets uncomfortable and then he always talks about how we shouldn't allow it. And I
shouldn't allow it.
I
love
love
it. Banned.
It's funny.
I gotta say this: you can criticize Go Powercat for things, but you can't say we don't have a strong screen name game going on right here.
Oh, it's so good.
We got. I mean, when
Purple cheese.
Purple my nurple. That's. I don't know.
It's funny.
I think it's pretty good.
But at least a little appropriate.
There's nothing wrong with Infected Testicle.
No,
well, there is something wrong with it.
There is something wrong.
It's
infected.
It's infected. Yeah, it's got to get some treatment. It's probably just an ingrown hair anyhow.
At what point does an infected testicle die off and fall off, or does it get better? Because
are you asking him to leave our message boards?
I'm just saying, at some point there's got to be a change in status.
Some antibiotics.
You know what I mean? It's like healthy testicle now.
I mean, I can think
Fritz,
of
can you change my screen name to Cured Testicle?
I can think of a few screen names on our old site that, if you want to look at it like that, definitely should have been changed years ago, but they never were. There was always an issue.
Whatever. From I Like Pickles Cat, with the new studio, is it possible to get a video segment every so often where we can ask recruiting questions?
Oh, like a live.
I think he just means
As in, like,
well, because we have
get
VIP
Wally
video
available?
I think he means like because we have VIP video that we put behind a paywall, so we could literally just record us talking. And
The problem is there's no place to put podcasts behind a paywall, right?
you're gonna have to listen to.
You're going to have to watch it as a video on Vimeo. That's the way to do it.
That's one of my problems with podcasts. I don't want to put my podcast behind their paywall. People are like, well, you can't be charging people for podcasts. There's not a market for it. Like if someone wanted to go with a VIP only podcast. And so none of the podcasting companies have a paywall. I just want the same thing Vimeo offers, an ability to put the coding behind a paywall so that the code sits behind the paywall. We should see. I don't know. Can you upload audio to Vimeo?
Yeah. I mean, it's just it'd be a black screen.
And then embed the Vimeo.
Yeah, the problem with Vimeo is it just you wouldn't be able to watch it like with your phone screen off. Like your phone screen would need to be on, your computer screen would need to be on.
It just doesn't work, man. It's frustrating. I want someone, and I hope this is one of the things I'm going to hit up CBS. We need to have a way to put podcast material behind a paywall so that we can take the overtime or take. We're looking at breaking the overtime off into a separate, fun Friday podcast where, this is the nonsense one. Don't listen to it at all if you don't want this. And then have the overtime on this podcast become a VIP separate stream, but it would be behind the paywall and only accessible to members. But yeah, the bigger question is with the new studio, we're not there yet. We still need to do things, but we are going to be able to put up webcams, really bring in guests via Skype or whatever if we want to do that. We're going to be able to do video things in the podcasting studio that will be pretty cool. It just takes a little more technology build out.
Can't promise anything yet, but we got some stuff in the works. We're looking at some things. We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll have some new stuff.
Last question of the podcast from I Like Pickles Cat.
It's not about golf again.
No.
Be a long podcast.
Will this be the last weekly podcast of the 2018-19 season?
I want to keep going. He's going to do a spool thing after a bit, but I got to do something in the summer.
Yeah, it might just be Riley and I. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe we'll talk about golf for an entire podcast. Maybe we'll talk about the quarterbacks for an entire podcast. I don't know.
We can do all kinds of stuff. We don't need.
We have a studio. We got to use
Zach
this now.
has a fan. We don't need Zach.
A fan.
Life will go on. Oh, we had a fight in the Royals game. Wow, look at that. Look at them.
They're not really fighting.
They're
They're
kind of
just
milling
standing
about.
there.
Hey, how you doing, Joe? I haven't seen you in a while. Yeah. We're gonna keep going. We'll keep going.
Why not?
We're gonna shift some attention over to shooting some video stuff, but we'll keep going. Riley and I'll be in here.
I'm gonna take some vacation and do some things, but
I got some vacation coming up in May.
I'm gonna go to the U.S. Open.
When is that?
It's in June.
Okay.
I'm gonna go to Hawaii in July, and then I have a wedding also in July. But
we'll promise this. We'll keep going through April.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So
maybe
one more week.
Early
2 more
May.
weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll still do it. I mean, at some point you run out of things to talk about, but
Right.
also
If there's
we
good
can
questions.
always talk. Yeah, we got to get the questions. Is the thing.
I mean, that's the way this podcast is formatted. I don't want a podcast where we just sit around for an hour and talk about topics we want to talk about. I want the subscribers, and that's why, we've experimented with bringing in Twitter questions, and I decided, no, I just want it to be a perk of membership to ask the questions. Everyone can listen to it, but a perk of membership to ask the questions, and I like this format. Now, will we bring in other formats, other podcasts we'll bring in guests? Absolutely. That is in the works for next year. But not this podcast. This podcast is what it is, and I really like this format. And that's it for this podcast. We're brought to you by The Fridge. This has been brought to you by our brand new podcasting studio, the WTC Gig Powered Studios. A lot of studio in there.
I like how you read it off the wall.
I got to look right over
Why
your
do you
head.
think we got the sign in the first place?
Yeah.
Do we need to move the sign central?
No, Zach, I'm faking looking at you. So if we're ever on video, it looks like I'm looking at you, but I'm looking right over your head to WTC Gig Powered Studios. There's a reason why that sign's there. I thought of all of this stuff. I knew I'd have someone to my left. Because, like, if you're not here, I'd Badge and Riley will move over here to this microphone.
So you can look, because you're not going to remember.
Pretty comfortable in this seat right here.
We're just going to put all of our reads on on matted squares.
Oh, we got the Fridge Wholesale Liquor on that sign. We know.
Behind me. So, thanks for listening, folks. We really appreciate it. We'll keep plugging away at this for a couple more weeks at least, if not longer. This has been GoPowerCat.com's Powercat Podcast.
Powercat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street Publishing.